Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome. It is the season finale of the Progress Report. Wow,
Season
I can't
finale.
believe it. The season finale, the last
Yeah,
show of the year, the last show of the season. I never thought I would ever get to a season finale on something
Netflix.
other than Game of Thrones
I
or something on
didn't even make
Netflix.
it to that.
I got to the season finale and then I turned the season finale off.
They were not nearly as interesting as us.
No, um, yeah, I would say that. Anyway,
I-
we have a wonderful show. As you can see, my good friend, my brother from another, my good sister in the community, Taylor Neptune, is here tonight
yep,
as my co-host. It's wonderful to have you back. Great
almost
job.
finished.
Yesterday, I got to watch the Tea with Taylor. I had my tea and I watched some Tea with Taylor, and you were talking about some
Nice.
things. We'll dig into that just a little bit. But
Thank
before
you.
I get into what we have in store for the show, um, yeah,
Uh
I'm just gonna say this: Donald Trump, you
oh.
lost the election in November. You lost in many states across the country. Donald, you lost in the
Give
Supreme
it,
Court.
give
They
it
didn't
up.
even want to hear you, Donald. They didn't want to hear you, Donald, at all.
Nope.
And then yesterday, on Monday, when all the electorals across the country had to vote to secure the great democracy of America and for what it was founded on and the republic for which it stands.
Seriously.
You even lost the electoral college. They said that no, Donald Trump, you can no longer. And this is how they did it, Donald. They was late one night. They all whispered in your ear, Donald, you can't be. You can't.
you know,
America doesn't like you.
they still think
Nobody likes
they still think they won.
you.
They still think they
They
won.
still think they won. Because
Still,
earlier I seen Kaylee. Everybody knows
Kaylee.
Kaylee. Kaylee, how you doing, Kaylee? Like
Give
she
it
is
up,
like for the past
Kaylee.
couple of days, for the past week, she's been throwing such a hissy fit lately. And I watched her early today, and in the middle of a question, she walked directly off the stage. And it was a
Yeah.
question about debunking what she was talking about with voter fraud. And everywhere you look on her timeline on Twitter, they are continually saying that she is not factual.
Yeah, I don't get it. They keep persisting and losing, and somehow it doesn't
And
stick.
Taylor, did you also hear? Hold up.
Oh boy.
Fred Flintstone has resigned as Attorney General.
Yes.
Wilma! He said, "Let me get up out of here.
Yeah.
He said, let me get up out of here because like the kitchen's getting too hot. I can no longer take the gravel on
It-
my feet.
it's getting
This
crazy
is
out here,
too much."
y'all. I mean, all the smart people in the cabinet and in that worked for Mr. Trump dropped like flies early on in the game. So those were the smart ones.
First of all, I think in the first year, he made McDonald's turnover rate look good. Let's be real, and they lose people daily. I know. I
That's
used to
true.
work at McDonald's. We used to lose people daily. It's
That is
actual
awful.
fact.
Oof.
Uh, with
Yikes.
all that said, Taylor, it's great to see you, my good friend. I mean, we haven't been able to hug. We haven't been able to like give the mwah, mwah kisses and
I
us
know.
how
And
each
just be
other's
overly
doing.
dramatic and ridiculous. I know.
I haven't been able to eat your wonderful cooking.
Uh, I've been home, so I've been cooking. Don't you worry, I got leftovers.
uh, um, okay. Maybe we can get into that. Maybe we can get into that.
Mhm.
No, I'm joking.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
so I have a quick question. No, first I have a comment. Great job on everything you're doing on with Tea with Taylor. It's now a official show for the Progress Channel.
Yeah,
Congratulations on
thank you
that.
so much.
No problem. I mean, like, I absolutely, I love Tea with Taylor. I loved it from the beginning, from its infancy. I remember when you started Tea with Taylor. Awesome. And the conversation that you were talking about, I mean, right now you're talking about spirituality. mind and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that, like your focus in your next couple of segments?
Yeah, so I wanted to encourage, people to become more aware, and to become more introspective, and to, just get more in touch with the spiritual side of yourself, and just realizing spirituality in everything that you do, and just forwarding some little steps in life to help heal. I like to call it the steps of healing, and that's what we're focusing on. I'm calling it the Eat, Pray, Love chapters because I'm unoriginal.
I mean,
I've
eat, pray,
actually
love. Those are I think those are the three things that we need.
it was just something that fell into my lap literally because it was a title that expressed everything I wanted to say. I've
Cool.
actually never seen the Eat, Pray, Love movie, sadly. But yeah, that's what we're calling it, the Eat, Pray, Love Chronicles. And I'm really excited to be a part of the Progress channel family. They've been helping me work on Tea with Taylor and all the things that I don't want to do and all the things I do want to do. We've just been working really well together, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. So before we get deep into this conversation today, everyone, please don't forget to like, share, and like us on the Progress Channel. Share this video, watch it, suggest it to somebody, send it to your mama, send it to your auntie, your uncles, your cousins, send it
Yep.
to your baby
Circles,
mama's
hearts,
daddies,
parties, all of it.
cousins, uncles, brothers, baby mama. I don't know. Send it
Nephews,
to
sisters,
somebody.
uncles.
I'm pretty sure you send it
Hmm.
down the line. Somebody will like. With all that said, we got a couple of topics to talk about today.
Oh
J.K.
yeah,
Rowling, J.K. Rowling, and so many of us like her because of the
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter series
Oh
and things of that.
gosh,
that.
she
However,
need to just
she
stick to the books.
recently, so she is what is, and I learned this term this year, a turf, and it's someone who is against trans rights.
Mm,
And she said, J.K. Rowling recently said that she believes people agree with her transphobic opinions, but they're just afraid to speak up. Her quote says, "Many are afraid to speak up because they fear for their jobs and even for their personal safety. This climate of fear serves nobody well, least of all trans." You want me to go first on this one, Taylor, or you want to take it?
like I said, J.K. girl, stick to the books. Cut it out. Nobody got time to be listening to you talking junk about something that you have no right to talk about in the first place, girl. Stick to the books. But I'm gonna let
You
you
know,
talk. you tell me what you think about that.
I'm very passionate about this, and I'm against people misgendering. I'm against people who are against people who who are being who they were meant to be, who they were called to be, who their purpose was to be. I'm against people who are against people for living their best life and living their life to the fullest, and who they want
Right.
and who they are,
Yeah.
not want to be. It's who they are.
Yeah.
I spoke about this last week very passionately, and I've been talking about it all week, and I still will say it. Councilman Michael Correa, you need to resign, or at least you should not be in leadership in the city of
Yeah.
Providence for misgendering Justice King. Okay, and I'm gonna keep saying that. I'm gonna beat that dead horse, and I'm gonna keep beating on this. J.K. Rowling, are you serious? You made money off the LGBTQ community by your books. That was one
Yeah.
of a lot of our saving graces, and led us to express who we are and believe who we are. And yet you're gonna sit here and make these statements about trans people and say this. And you know
And
what?
see,
I am gonna say this. I think there is a little bit of truth. There are people who are afraid to speak up. There are people who are afraid to speak up because they're going to lose their jobs and things of that nature. But to those people, I sit there and say, if you're afraid to speak up, that means there's something wrong with you. There's something you disbelieve.
yeah.
Instead of you sitting there being afraid to speak up, why don't you speak up on something else? Speak up on, I need to learn how to respect people for who they
Right.
are and who they were purposed to be.
Right. That
That's
shows a lack of understanding, and it shows a lot more about her than anyone else with the way she's going about this. You could completely feel this way behind closed doors and have no need to speak out about it. And like I said, no place to speak out about it. Educate yourself. That's all it takes.
it's that simple. It's that simple. Educate yourself. But you know what? I do believe that the height of this political climate has allowed people to say things publicly that they
Oh,
wouldn't normally
absolutely.
say. I guarantee
Absolutely.
J.K. Rowling has felt this for many, many years, but never felt the need to say it. But you look at the political climate around the world, because we're not the only
Mhm.
country that is dealing with claims of fraudulent elections and things of that
Oh
nature.
yeah.
There are about three countries in Africa. You see what they're doing over in Russia, even what they
Yep.
have done in the Ukraine to secure dictatorship as elections. Come on,
Yeah.
North
There
Korea
were
alone uses
riots
president
about
phrases.
the last
So,
election. Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, I know. J.K. Rowling is from, I believe, the United Kingdom, but let's be real. People have all around the world. People have not been silent about what they normally say behind closed doors, and it's
Yeah.
disgusting. It's despicable. Um,
The
listen,
Trump.
and I'm gonna say this because I read the entire Harry Potter series. I've watched all the movies and things of
Oh
that
yeah.
nature. I do own the
I've been
books.
a
I
fan of
wish
the
I
series
could.
for a long
I
time.
wish now I can go back to Borders, which is no longer around, and get my money back.
Borders, you're
Um,
giving your age away.
You know what? You know what? Some people wish they looked this good.
True. You're right. You're right. That good
So,
old melanin.
co-star India Moore just launched Trans Santa to send gifts to transgender youth. India Moore wants to help ensure that every kid gets a gift this year. On the 25-year-old Pose actor launched Trans Santa, an initiative that lets users anonymously give presents to trans students and younger adults in need. Open quote, she said. They say, I'm sorry, because their pronoun, and I apologize about that, their proper pronoun is they, them.
Right.
They said, trans issues don't receive much visibility or attention, unfortunately, but this year has been the most violent and deadly for my community. And they are right. It has been
They are
one of the
absolutely right.
most violent and deadly uh, in the trans community this year. This year we had our Trans Lives Rally March. I was able to attend and speak in that
Oh yes.
rally, and I was humbled. I was humbled by the stories. I was humbled by what people shared about their struggle. Uh, it was absolutely amazing. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Taylor. Sorry.
Hmm. No, no, no. I'm listening. I was unable to attend that rally, but I heard a lot about it, and the speaking up on trans matters, trans lives and trans lives matters, and things of that nature have been also a part of the recent climate, and a big part of the political climate as well. One of the driving factors for us to vote for who we voted for was the fact that he did care about trans matters and LGBT matters. Um, so for her to urge herself to speak up in that
Them,
manner,
them.
one for the JK thing that was crazy, but also for India Moore to be putting on something like this that's never been done before. I'm in awe. I'm applauding her, applauding them. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry.
Them. You keep saying her. They're non-binary.
I know. I caught that at the end. I was like, yikes.
We gotta. And you know what? Myself. I'm still learning myself. I make the same mistake, but I think it's powerful that we should all be able to correct one another and call one another
Oh,
out and be.
absolutely.
So, um, but Moore also said, I didn't have a chimney growing up in the Bronx or in foster care, but I do have my community now. My friends and I want to make sure that the trans kids feel like they are a gift to this world because they are. Accepted and loved are gifts we all deserve. We all deserve all year. And I couldn't agree more.
That's
I think
beautiful.
everyone deserves the gift of love. Everyone should be loved, period. Um, so more information on the Trans Santa's Company Instagram page. Users can read letters submitted by almost 200 children. Users can then select a child to be taken to a target registry with their wish list. There's a 15-year-old in Tennessee asking for a cozy colored block sweater, while an 8-year-old in California asks for a tablet. Other gifts range from a basketball to a rice cooker. It's estimated that LGBTQ youth make up 40% of the youth homeless populations in the United States, despite representing 7% of the general youth population, according to True Colors United. Another 92% of transgender Adults who have attempted suicide did not before the age of 25, according to the 2015 report by the National Center for Equality. Go to the Instagram page Transcend and click on the bio. If you don't use Instagram, go to the website link.bio/Transanta. Transanta. That's Transanta. We looked up some of the requests. Many of them look like a typical teen's Christmas. Video games and gift cards, but one really caught the attention of our producers. Column from Fairbanks, and Fairbanks, Alaska says, "Hi, my name is Column. I am 14. I use he, him, and they them pronouns. Me and my mother, 15-year-old trans friend, are not in wonderful situations and are trying to save up for benders. We really just need help getting food and some clothes and some toys for our dog would be nice.
But
Columns list include the
binders.
basic binders. Yeah, sorry, I said benders. Binders. Columns list include some basic sweaters, sneakers, pillows, and blankets, which have already been purchased for them. The remaining 16 items on his wish list are all frozen food items. This is a 14-year-old asking for food for Christmas. So please, 14-year-old asking for food for Christmas. They could be
That's
asking for so many things, a tablet, a phone. They could be asking for a new pair of Jordans. They could be asking for the Xbox 5 that people are buying off the shelves and selling them at alarming rates. But no, this child's
seriously
asking for something that is a
food.
basic necessity for anybody to have, and that is food.
Yeah, and a 14-year-old child at that, like
A
to
14-year-old
be
child.
at
I don't want
such a young
anything else.
age to be so aware of what you are lacking.
I want, and you know what? While we are on break, you get to go to your refrigerator and make yourself a nice drink or get that bag of popcorn that's been sitting for the past 10. I want you to think about Column's request for food. We'll be back after these messages. Hey everyone, we're
Okay,
back. How
we are
is
back.
we are back. We're back. Oh man, I almost had a song for that. Like I'm back.
I saw that. I saw the
I'm
gears
back.
turning.
I'm back.
Oh
Get up off
no!
of that
Oh
thing.
no!
All right.
Oh no! Oh no!
The, what? Little James Brown?
I told you about singing. I told you.
Listen, it's Christmas. You're lucky I'm not singing a bunch of Christmas songs. It's annoying.
Oh, oh, you're right. I'm lucky. Thank God.
You are. You are. I could. I
Prayers
could.
are still answered.
I could. Grandma got shot down by a reindeer, or
Oh
you
no!
know,
No!
something.
No! No! No!
I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus.
That one is so cute. I like that one. I do like that one.
But let's get into the thick of things today. We're ending our season with our community in action series. And today I'm happy to have back two people that we had during this time. Ray Joseph. Ray's the head of the prevention team at AIDS Care Ocean State. Ray was on the show December 1st for the World AIDS Day episode of our Community in Action series. And Jennifer Roque is the co-founder of the Rhode Island Political Cooperative. And I apologize, that's a collaborative. Jennifer was on the show on November 24th for our Community in Action series. It's great to welcome you both back. Jennifer, you're
Oh,
gonna
there
beat
they
me
go.
up. I already seen your face. You're like, you can't get my last name right, but nothing. I'ma smack that boy. But Jennifer's in my
So
head.
is it Rourke?
It's Rourke.
Rourke.
Gotcha.
Just,
Okay.
yeah, just Rourke. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
I'm sorry. When you see me, you can punch me in the arm for it. Just my left one, because my right one's my bowling
Okay,
Uh,
I got you.
you won't need it for a while. Bowling's closed.
So welcome back to you both. I'm glad to have you guys here to wrap up our season, our entire season, and this segment of the show. This segment, community in action. We had some great conversation over the past couple of weeks, and again, I'm glad to have you guys back.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Unfortunately, Tammy Brown was supposed to be here tonight with us, but they had something. She had something very important to do, so she could not be here tonight. And Tammy, it's all right. We'll catch you on the flip side, girl.
Oh, Tammy.
So big news. I'm going to
Big
start with
news.
this one first. I want to start with this one first. Big news. On Monday, the Electoral College met to affirm Joe Biden's victory in the presidential election. Quickly, how do we feel about this?
Lady
I will
first.
say, um, I am happy because that person is no longer in office. I'm hopeful for our futures. I'm hoping that we can, I don't want to say go back to where we were because it wasn't fun there either. I just hope as a
Hmm.
nation that we can move forward to a better united nation, if that makes sense.
Right. I agree. Ray?
Yeah, I think the key word is being hopeful. Hopeful that things will get better, things will change, and out of the hard work and struggle that we've had in 2020, we can see that progress in 2021 moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not going to be like a right now thing, but it's like you said, something we could see in 2021 develop. A little bit of relief, so to speak.
I mean, but
Um,
even still to this point, he who must not be named is still his press secretary himself, still tweet out uh, baseless claims, election fraud claims, and now with Attorney General Barr gone, could this be and Trump putting an acting attorney general, and could he force his attorney general, the acting attorney general, to investigate some of these baseless claims?
does he need any reason?
I think he'll do it. I just think he'll do it. I think he'll do it, and I think it's gonna come down to I don't know if anybody's seen the video meme of him being pulled out the office by the movers with the desk. He's yelling. I think it's gonna be that. I think it's gonna be that. I think he's not going. I still don't believe it's over. I don't believe it's over, even with the electoral college thing. So,
Well, I'll be in
Honestly, I hope
DC.
it's that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll be in DC the day of the inauguration, and if he doesn't leave, I don't mind walking in the White House and kicking him out myself.
Say that.
I'm gonna be
Say
with my
that.
mother, so my mother has a way of getting things done, and I was taught very well. So we would walk in the White House if needed.
Bring
I
some
mean,
U-Haul
you know what?
boxes.
If you want to rent my grandmother for that weekend during inauguration weekend, she's been known to
Done.
convince people.
Nothing would please me more, and I've said this. You can go back on the progress report and see. Nothing would please me more than to see him being physically pulled out of the office.
Dragged out.
Nothing. It would make such good entertainment and such good TV. And
But you
him
know
being
what?
a reality
That
TV
would cap
star,
off
him being a
the
reality TV
presidency.
star. That's all I want. That's all I want
Entertaining.
from him. Get
That would
him
cap
pulled
off
out.
his entire presidency.
Yeah, yeah. He'll be a legend.
Yeah.
Getting
He's already
physically
a
dragged.
legend for being. He's already a legend. When you have George Bush, who we thought was the worst president ever,
I remember that.
actually not be the worst president ever, then we have some.
Hmm.
So other big news in Rhode Island, the head of the State Department of Health has tested positive for COVID-19. The governor, Secretary of Commerce, and top infectious disease expert Dr. Chan are all in quarantine. Rhode Island is
Yeah.
considered the worst hotspot in the world right now. Our Rhode Islanders taking this virus serious.
And on top of that, I found out a few days ago that we are the highest per capita in new cases. So are we taking it seriously? That's a really good question.
Ray, you want to start with that one?
Rhode Islanders are gonna Rhode Island. That's all we can say about that. Uh, I mean, you can tell us to wear a mask, you can tell us to stay in, and people are gonna find a reason to go out and do things. I remember earlier on during the lockdown when the people were screaming, support local businesses and go out to the fishing docks and get crabs and lobsters from the docks and all that stuff. I drove by just because I like to watch spectacles and whatnot, and I kid you not, literally 100, 200 people lines around the corner, no social distancing, gathered up all there. Nobody's wearing a mask, waiting for crabs and lobsters. Rhode Islanders are going to Rhode Island regardless. What I think
Yeah.
is key is that our leadership takes that role, take that extra step, and seeing that they might have been exposed. All right, let's start the quarantine and lead by example. I spoke with Dr. Chan, not directly, but I was on a Zoom meeting that he was on Monday, and he told me that he's asymptomatic right now, but because of the precautions, he's still quarantining. So just
Right.
leading by example and making sure people know that if you are potentially exposed, these are the things that you should do, and hopefully the vaccine is effective. But I mean, what can we say for Rhode Island that we can't say about any other state out there? That people are just going to do as
True.
they feel.
True. And to speak on that even a little more, when the like you said the quarantine started, I had just moved to to Atwell's and area, and I drove by a couple times after on the weekends, um, and they had blocked the roads off by all the restaurants, which would be okay in normal circumstance. But when you have people on foot walking, there's no distancing, there were no masks, and just because you're outside doesn't mean that you can be in groups or that you don't need to wear your mask. You're walking past other people, and I
Mhm.
noticed it a couple of times in the Atwells area that they block off the road and people are just like la 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 la. It's
Mhm.
awful.
I would say there's
Yeah, I
a
mean,
sorry.
go ahead, Jen.
I was gonna say my daughter and I we took a trip around the state when this first happened. And I think people were taking it more serious back then. And now they're very calm. Like I'm not gonna lie, I get my nails done still. But my nail tech, even before COVID, was a 2 mask wearing separator, like even before COVID even hit. and that's it. Like that's what we do. I go get my nails done, but other than that, I'm home. I get COVID tested all the time because I try to go visit my grandmother in Massachusetts who has dementia, and I'm not the one that wants to give it to her. Like, I don't want to be that person. But I don't go to parties. We don't go out anywhere. My circle is super tiny. There's 6 of us in this house, so that's more than enough. But I think now we're at the point where our leaders aren't leading by example. And I think that's the biggest issue. If they're not taking it as serious as they should be, the regular person is not going to take it as serious.
Well, Jay, because there was a picture of Gina Raimondo at a wine and paint night. Didn't have a mask on, anything like that. And then she also did a kind of selfie from the governor's car yesterday when the Electoral College was in the state house casting their vote for Joe Biden. So on one hand, you have the people in her cabinet. They quarantine. They're doing the right thing. But our governor, who is the head of the state of Rhode Island, is not exemplifying that. So how do we, if the governor's not doing that, how do we push people that are anti-maskers to wear their masks? How do we push people who don't want to socially distance, who want things to be open, like bowling alleys and gyms and things of that nature? How do we still convince them?
I think people have to understand there's a difference between quarantine and isolation. Like, so our governor is supposed to be quarantining, which means that she's supposed to stay where she needs to stay. And granted, I'm not her biggest fan. I'm not her number one cheerleader. The person that they said that the person that was driving her previously had COVID. However, to show that she's leading by example, she should have tried to figure out a way to take that call from home. If my sons and my daughter have to figure out how to do school from home to do the right thing, she should have done that too. When you're in isolation, it's just you, period. You shouldn't be with anyone. You should not leave your house. You stay where you are unless you need to go to the ER. So she's in a different category for quarantining. Her family's been exposed to her. Her driver already had it. Those are the people she needs to stay with. When you're in isolation, you stay with yourself. You stay in the room by yourself. You don't expose anyone else. You stay where you need to be. She's not considered to be in quarantine. However, if she wanted to lead by example and tell people and show people what the right thing to do is, she should have stayed home.
Sure should have.
I agree.
Yeah. I agree. And with COVID still being what it is, and you all know, even we just talked about it a few minutes ago, being at this state where we're at in the world, there's been a lot of rumors and concerns about the vaccine as well. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's a tricky one. I mean, public perception and the sources of the vaccine versus the actual data and how vaccines are actually pushed out historically. I'm still on the fence as far as yay or nay on the vaccine, but I guess I'm optimistic in saying I believe in other sources of the administration, not the presidential part, but the FDA and the CDC. I'd have to believe that they know what they're talking about. But like I said, I'm still on the fence as far as the efficacy of it.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I am. I'm not. For me, this is just me talking as a regular person. You managed to find a vaccine for a virus or whatever that just happened, but we don't have a cure for AIDS. We don't have treatment for cancer, like a cure for cancer. We don't have a cure for MS. But in a matter of 6 months, they managed to find a vaccine that will affect and eradicate this virus. Like how? And I think about things like, I know people think it's funny, like, oh, I compare it to the zombie movie where people start taking this medication and all of a sudden all these side effects. What are the side effects? How does it affect your brain? What are the long-term side effects? I need to know that stuff. I need to see more studies. I get my flu shot every year. I know it's not guaranteed, but there are certain things that I know that we need to have further study on, and this needs to be one of them. I'm gonna stop now.
You know what? And no, I had to drink my water because I was about to be like, yes, Um,
Mhm.
And I agree with you, and I think again, it goes to one of those things as to each their own. If you choose to take the vaccine now in this first round, things like that, go ahead and do it. But as for myself individually, I need to see what are the side effects of this vaccine. What are the long term effects? For example, we know when it comes to HIV medication, a few years ago, about 6, 7 years ago, Caplera was one of the top drugs, and then we find out all the
Right.
complications, and now you hear the video that says if you have had any complications with Caplera, tripla, this that, and you may be entitled to compensation. I'm afraid that 10 years down the line, I take the vaccine now. If you took the 2020 first round or the second round, you may be entitled to compensation. I think that's a legitimate fear that people
Yeah.
have. And it
And
goes, again, it goes back to, I said, to each their own. I think when you're ready, because there's people that choose, I'm not taking the flu shot.
yeah,
It's to each their own.
yeah, and I
Well,
and I'm definitely taking the wait and see approach as well. I need to see what's happening. I need some little more research to be done to feel secure. They already pump us full of all these things when we're born, immunization things and of that nature that we have no idea what's in it, and they refuse to tell us. Um, which is fine, do what you want along those lines. But I'm gonna wait and see. I heard something about people's face
I mean,
freezing
I,
or
I mean,
something.
and Jen kind of touched on it a little bit. Jen touched on it a little bit. The federal government spent $9 billion on the vaccine for COVID-19 in 11 months, yet has only spent $2.6 billion a year on HIV research.
Yeah.
that's a little
Right?
skewed
Why?
in terms. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah. I was going to go
Go
right
ahead,
to you
go
with
ahead,
this
Jen.
question. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that's a little skewed because in terms of HIV research, we know what the virus is, we know how it affects the body, and we know how to prevent it. So when we're talking about HIV research, we're talking about vaccine trials and or potential new medications, which they have been pushing out a lot of medications throughout the years for HIV. But if you think about the totality that the government puts out for HIV, including prevention, care and treatment, all the things. And money comes from a number of different sources. Comes from HUD, the NIH, National Institutes of Health, the CDC, even the VA gives money for HIV. I think that totals around, and the U.S. contribution totals around 38 billion. So in terms of per year, so in terms of the whole scope of HIV, it's a large amount of money that's being poured into it. But you are correct in saying the research part hasn't been as much as COVID. But that's just because COVID's new on the scene, and
Right.
we're seeing the effects of COVID right away. It's similar to HIV.
So would
Do
you
you
say if we
think
if we
it's
if we looked at if do you think if we were to put on a scale and modernize it, when HIV was first on the scene, do you think that the government put as much money that they did
Uh,
into COVID?
No, definitely not. And
No.
I mean, yeah, I don't have to be a mathematician to see that. But what we do
Right.
see is that the beginnings of HIV is similar to the beginnings of COVID in terms of it affected a disenfranchised population. The majority of it affected disenfranchised populations, and the government was slow to react. I mean, granted, we live in a microwave era now where we want things quick and right away. We went what 6, 7 months of isolation and quarantining before there was even talks of a vaccine trial being done. So I mean, when we
right?
think about the correlation between HIV and COVID, it's almost the same, on the same track.
So I'm gonna ask the whole panel this question, and anyone can answer. I think I already know what the answer is gonna be from this panel. If cisgendered white population was affected by HIV, do you think the funding would be a bigger priority?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the
Yes.
reason it didn't get as much attention when it first started as something like COVID does, because it wasn't a priority to cis white gender people. It wasn't something
Hmm.
that was affecting them as much as the black and brown community. So
Mhm.
it wasn't on their radar. It wasn't important.
No, it took for celebrities and actually Ryan White, the first HIV child to get first child to get HIV, for it to become a national thing. And I believe it wasn't until Clinton was president that the first mention of HIV by a president. Don't fact
Yeah,
check me on that, but I believe it's Clinton.
Sounds about
around
right.
that era, I would say at least.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna answer that question with words because yeah, but you are absolutely, I'll say it, yes, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
When it comes to things that affect the Black and brown community, it's not a priority. Everything from any type of disease to maternal mortality to hunger to anything, if it affects the Black and brown
To
community,
the
it's
air
not a
quality
priority.
in South Providence,
Air, water,
Right.
soil,
Hmm.
it's not a
To the
priority.
water quality. Yep.
to the water quality in Flint, Michigan, to air
Still a
quality in
Yep.
problem.
South Providence. It doesn't matter. I think when it comes to Black and brown people, we just don't put the government doesn't put enough research into it. And I think, and let me ask this question. Jen, with you being, you are the head of the political. I kept saying collaborative. It's cooperative. Sorry about that. But of the political cooperative, how can we engage Black and brown people to get more involved in the voting and election process locally? I'm not talking about a federal, because we'll talk about a federal presidential election, but I don't think we talk enough about the local election.
You have to go to them. So,
Mm-hmm.
in order to get people in our community to vote, you have to go to them. They're not going to just go out there and say, I'm going to vote for the city councilor, Joe Schmo, who I've never met before. No, if they don't have a foot in this race, if they don't have someone that is pushing them, they're not going to go. My grandmother grew up in an era where voting was something that she fought so hard for. So she took her voting
Right.
seriously. I learned from my mother, I learned from my grandparents, like, you go out and vote. My neighbors never voted. They didn't care.
Yep.
And it's because people always believe your vote doesn't count. Your vote counts. So if you're like, all right, I'm going to get involved, I want to make sure my neighbors vote. You bring them, if they say they're not registered, you bring them the registration form. On election day, you pick them up and you bring them to the polls. If they want to get a mail-in ballot, you order it for them right there in front of them so they know when it comes in, you be there so that they vote. Like, you have to actually put the effort and go out and talk to your neighbors. When I was growing up, it was always, we're a village. And I still use that term, we are a village. I grew up in the projects. Miss Beulah down the street knew I was coming home from school. And she knew that there was a child molester that lived in the building. She watched me until I got around the corner. Then the next neighbor watched. And then she watched me until I got home. And that's what we need. We need more neighbors looking out for each other. And we don't have that because people are so self-centered. All they care about is self. But you can't benefit yourself if you don't benefit your neighbor. So go knock on your neighbor's door and say, this is what's going on in our community, and talk to them.
Yep.
That's, I love that you said that, because I've been saying lately. I said, the problem with the neighborhood is there's no more neighbors in the we call it a hood, and there's no neighbors. And when I was, like you said, when I was growing up, I was fortunate to grow up and live in my grandmother's house. But my next door neighbor, she was our lunch lady. She owned her house. She was our lunch lady. And the lady next door, we knew she was blind, but she also worked for the state department. Her husband that lived with her, and she had her children. And then across the street, we had former city councilman, the Honorable Mr. Henry, right across the street from us. So we knew, on my street that I grew up on, and there was other people that on that street. So I knew when I was walking down the street, there were people watching. The lady down the street who had the bird on her shoulder, who grew the grapes in her backyard. Um, uh, the older ladies that sat on their porch, in the afternoon, and will say hi to all the kids and watch all the kids go by. Or and rest in peace, I lost him earlier this year. A man who had mental issues, and a really great guy, kind guy, and buddy. I used to see him all the time. That's a neighborhood. That's a neighborhood. When I got to walk with Tiara Mack and knock on doors in my neighborhood, I was able to connect with so many people in my neighborhood, and then I met people that I knew that didn't live in the neighborhood before, that I found out. Ooh, I think that was. Sorry, I don't.
Let me tell you, Dee, you grew up in a magical neighborhood, because Long Island, New
I
York was not
did.
like that. We did not have people walking around with birds
I
on their
grew up in
shoulders.
listen. I grew up in Washington Park. I grew up in Washington Park, Providence. I'm not gonna. I didn't grow up in the projects or anything. When you grow up in Washington Park, you know people from. We have a saying in Washington Park. You know you grew up in Washington Park. You know you grew up in Washington Park because you went to Broad Street School and Roger Williams Middle School. You know you grew up in Washington.
That's
But I'm
Dion, it's
sorry,
right.
funny.
Frank.
It's funny you say that because as you're saying it, I'm like, wow, that sounds just like Washington Park to me. That's where I grew up too. So as you're
Oh
saying
You
it,
know,
I'm
no.
like, wow, that sounds just like Washington.
Oh no.
I grew
No.
up in Washington Park, and it was a predominantly Portuguese neighborhood growing up. Now the neighborhood has it's a little bit more mixed, but I still know George Barbosa's liquor store, and I'm gonna give George a shout out in this holiday season.
Ooh.
Right there at the end of my street, George. When I was a kid, he used to sell these 5-cent Reese candies, and we would go in and just to get Reese candies.
What?
Yeah.
And because we didn't have because
No.
I lived on the end of and we didn't have the corner store. I lived on the end of when I lived on Washington Avenue. I lived on the end where there was no corner store, so you had to go to Shells and cross the boulevard, or if you wanted a bag of chips and a
But
soda, you had to go to that liquor store, right? So
Listen, not in Long Island, New York, honey. No, no. We
no,
we we grew up in a very white neighborhood for a very long time, and we didn't know our neighbors, and they loved it. They thought they knew us, but they didn't. They didn't come over and bring us no eggs, no flour. We didn't have people walking over birds. Nobody don't
they
do
said,
no
"What you need?
nothing,
Sugar for Kool-Aid?" We thought black people
right?
had sugar.
Is it grape or red? But I like what you said. I like what you said about it being a hood and not a neighborhood. That stood out to me. I like that. And with this being our season finale, guys, I want to up the question because again we touched on it a little bit about people getting the resources they need and not feeling like they have those connections to mainstream media as Black and Brown people, as people in the LGBTQIA community. Do you think that projects like the Progress Report, so to speak, or the Progress Channel, do you think that we need more of that? Do you think that's important? How do you feel about how we've been doing so far with that? What are
Yeah. Do
your
you think
spicy
it's
takes?
important for us? Do you think it's important for us to continue doing this, or do you think it's not important us to do it? Because I need to know. No, I'm joking.
Go ahead, Ray.
Jennifer,
I'll
you
let
can
you
go.
start.
Oh, thank you. No, it's definitely important. I mean, hearing I don't want to say the news, hearing politics and hearing people's opinions in your own voice, people that you can relate to, I think that only gets the message across even better. And it's definitely needed in the times that we live in now. And not to downplay what you guys do, because I know it's definitely hard. Last time I was on, I almost choked. I had a choking fit. But being able to speak for this amount of time on different topics, it only gives credit to you guys and the work ethic that you guys have for this. I think it's phenomenal, and more
By the way,
projects
Ray
like
was the
this.
only guest that had to go get water in the middle of a
Oh my gosh, yes, me
And
too,
that's why I
me
back mine
too.
now.
Dion scared him. That's all.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's nice to hear what's happening around us by people who are actually involved. It's different when you hear the newscasters out there and they're telling a story, but they're telling a story from an outside perspective. It's different when you're actually in it and you're doing it. So it's nice to hear that perspective. So I thank y'all for doing it, for having different people from different communities on to share what they're doing. I would love to see
Absolutely.
I would love to see some people on the opposite end. Just to I know it sounds bad. This is supposed to be a safe place, but sometimes hearing why people think the way they think, you always get an opportunity to educate. So like for me, I would be the person to have a conversation with some person that doesn't like Black and brown people, and I just want to know why. So that would be me. But
Ooh,
I'm not saying
You
do
know
that
what?
because this is a safe place.
ooh.
You know what? You know what? And
You
I
are
will
right.
take that. I would take that because I definitely would love at one point talk to somebody that has a difference of opinion of myself and debate with them. I think that would be a lot of fun. Donald Trump's going to be free after January 20th, so I'll
No,
send him a letter.
he's going to
Uh,
jail.
Well, not for long.
He's
He's
going to
going
jail.
to
He ain't gonna be
jail.
free.
He's
He's
not
going
gonna
to
be free for
jail.
long.
Yep.
but maybe I can get this. Maybe I can get this guy, and then this is going to be our last thing because I know Jen, you did we did want to talk about this. We've seen a lot of changes in the political arena lately. However, some things seem to be politics as usual. The House Speaker is a good example for that. The people voted out Mattiello. So long, Mattiello. And his second in command was nominated by the representative to take his place. Earlier today, you had some strong feelings about that.
Oh yes.
I'm gonna let you get your voice out right now.
She said what she said.
I am
And she
unapologetic.
meant it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So what people have to understand is nothing's going to change if we keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. We keep voting in these mediocre people who don't give a damn about the average Rhode Islander, who don't give a damn about Black and brown people, who don't care about poor people or people who aren't lawyers or people who aren't capital. They don't care about us. And that's the issue. When we got rid of Mattiello, we had an opportunity to put forward someone who is, one, transparent, and two, fighting for the right reason. And she, and I'm calling out this one person in particular because she threw her hat in the ring before Mattiello was even voted out. And Joe, the nominee, he's only one. He's the endorsed nominee, but she is still in this race. They have given the power to this man that does not give a damn about us. When this woman, and I'm talking about Rep. Kassar, who is an amazing woman who is fighting for doula legislation to this day because they removed it from the budget, but that's a whole other issue. And they have given the title, the power, and the respect to this man who was not courageous enough to step up before Mattiello was out. And if people think leadership is going to change, things going to change, and there's going to be more bills coming to the floor, they are absolutely incorrect because Joe Shekarchi had an opportunity when Mattiello was speaker to step up and speak up, and he did not. So nothing is going to change with him in office. That's it. I'm done. Sorry. I'm a little passionate about it. Sorry.
Speak on it.
Sorry. Okay.
Yes. I could have said it.
Guys.
Whew. I thought, listen, I was about to break out, and every time I feel the spirit. Seriously.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know what? You're right. That is the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing, voting the same type of people with the same type of mindset into office, into leadership positions. And I couldn't agree with you more on this one wholeheartedly. And please definitely send me some emails because the holidays are going to happen. And what happens, I think they try to hide it behind the holidays. They try to get their things done so that way they can have their way. As much as we can push that out and get people to phone call their reps, and force their reps to change their vote. Call your rep and force them to change their vote. That's how we're gonna end that one.
And Ms. Jennifer, when is the voting? Do we know?
So it's the first week of January. So they actually tomorrow, is it the first? Yeah, tomorrow they're voting. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Thursday they're convening.
Tomorrow,
yeah, Thursday they're convening to talk about appointing new judges and all this other stuff. So they're having a meeting on Thursday, but the actual vote isn't until January when they all get back in session. So please contact your reps, tell them to vote for Kassar as speaker because that woman she's up there and she's fighting. She's trying so hard.
Hands down.
I'm grateful for that information. I was unaware of that.
So I'm definitely gonna bring you guys. We're gonna go to commercial, and I'm gonna bring my panel back so I can say goodnight. But we have to go to commercial before Ken, our producer, chokes me like I'm Bart Simpson in his former. Okay? He's been doing this for the past 20 minutes. But with all that said, we'll be right back after a message from our
Well, hello
Hello,
there, guys.
everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. And this has been a great conversation. I want to thank Jennifer and Ray for being back with us. We will definitely have you guys back somewhere in the future. And with every talk about everything. We didn't even get to all the materials today, but I think we had a great conversation. And Taylor, of course, I want to thank you as well. But it is the holiday season, and I celebrate Christmas. I celebrate New Year's. That's what I celebrate. But I want to say happy holidays to everyone. But before we close out, I want everyone to give me their favorite holiday tradition for a child. And I'm going to start with you, Jen.
So I grew up in the projects, super poor, and my grandparents had me decorate a shoebox every year. And I would decorate it, and they would fill it on Christmas Eve with fruits and nuts and candies that were supposed to get me through. And I carry on the tradition with my kids. So every year they get a box filled with treats, and I'm the only one in my family that carries on that tradition. So that
That's
is
so
my
cute. Oh my
Wow, that
gosh.
is
That's a
so
great tradition.
cute.
Yeah.
so
I
growing
don't
up,
want to
that's
Wanted
what
say
to
we did.
mine
laugh.
now.
That's what we did.
Aw.
So yeah.
Okay, Ray.
Thank you, Dion, for having her go first.
Oh, sorry.
uh, only holiday tradition that I really keep going is just baking cookies and having the kids have fun. That's it. Just baking different types of cookies and doing gingerbread houses, things like that.
Yeah, I like the cookies. I like the cookies part, but as an adult, the cookies never seem to make it to Santa.
No.
Um,
No, no, they don't. I like to eat too much.
Taylor.
So we don't have very many traditions in my family, and growing up, it was always my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. So I kind of had to split up the holidays, and I had like sort of one here, one there. But on my mom's side of the family, we would always just get together, make banana pudding, which was my favorite, and play board games. And on my dad's side, we would get together, we would all get matching onesies and watch movies. And both traditions were really close and like near and dear to me. But I have to say I do enjoy getting comfy in my onesie and watching movies. So that's something I'm gonna have to continue this year, being different and staying home.
Um, so I'll go, and my one tradition that I absolutely enjoy as a child with my um and my stepfather, who's no longer with us here, but is spiritually, he instituted my sister, myself, and my mother, and it was for us to open one gift the night before Christmas. Um, we just had to pick that one tree, and but then on my father's biological father's side, my grandmother, she used to make these like chocolate balls as Christmas ornaments and wrap them in foil. And so what we would do was, as kids, we would try to break them early and say, "Oh, it's broken," so we can eat it, and things like that. Uh,
That's
yeah,
so cute.
those are my Christmas traditions. But so to everyone out there during the holidays, we want everyone to be safe over the next couple of weeks. We want to thank everyone that has been watching, sharing, talking about the progress report in its first season. I couldn't be happier enough. I want to send special thank yous out to our technical staff, and our producers and our
Seriously.
behind the scenes people. You all know who you are. I can't call you guys all right now because it's the holidays, and one thing that I like to do during the holidays is enjoy a nice glass of whiskey because it is cold and frozen outside. So, with all that said, with everything said, I won't see you guys for a couple of weeks. I'll talk to you guys for a couple of weeks. Enjoy the holiday season. Enjoy the progress report because as America moves from an F, we're working on being a solid A. Ray, Jen, Taylor, Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, and whatever you say.
Salute.
Merry Christmas.
Good night, Rhode Island.